Hello everyone and welcome back to Issues with Mo. So this week I'm going to be talking about 5 important things to know about air porosity. If you remember last week I mentioned air porosity as one of the properties of natural air, in fact properties of any type of air. So we are going to be talking about 5 things you need to know about air porosity. So let's get into it. To understand the concept of air porosity, we need to first understand the structure of your air strand. So the air strand is made up of proteins and cuticles. The tightness of your cuticles determines your air porosity, and the most important protein in an air strand is keratin. Keratin helps to strengthen your air strand, it helps to make your air waterproof, it helps to thicken your air strand, and it also helps to prevent breakage. So the most important element in talking about air porosity is the cuticles of your strands, how tightly packed or how spaced out your cuticles are. The air strand is made up of cuticles, medulla and cortex. The cuticle is the outermost layer of your air strand. Then after the cuticle we have the medulla, and the innermost layer rather of the air strand is the cortex. So the cortex it is the cortex that determines if anything is going to penetrate your air. It is the cortex that determines the permeability of your air to moisture and products. And also your air porosity largely depends on genetics, because if you are from a family of where they have low porosity air, you are likely to have low porosity air, and vice versa for high porosity air and normal porosity air. In as much as genetics contributes largely to your air porosity, there are also some man-made factors that can determine your air porosity. For example, use of chemicals like relaxers and dyes, and also how frequently you apply heat to your air. People with permed hair usually have high porosity air, and then when you straighten out your hair or when you blow dry, apply heat in general to your hair, it increases your air porosity. The second point to note about air porosity are the types of air porosity. We have low porosity, normal porosity and high porosity. For low porosity, the air cuticles are tightly bound together. Like the cuticles are really small, and it is quite difficult for moisture and products to penetrate your air strand. For medium or normal porosity, the air cuticles are less tightly bound. Like the air cuticles are not too close and they are not too far, it is just okay. And for high porosity, the cuticles are more widely spaced out. Like there is a lot of space between the cuticles. In the next slide you are going to see the differences between low porosity, normal porosity and high porosity air strand. The third point to note are the characteristics of different type of air porosity. We are going to focus on low porosity and high porosity air strands. For low porosity air, you easily get products build up. Like when you apply products to your hair, the products just sit on your hair. They don't easily enter or penetrate your cuticles, so you are likely to see the product on your hair. Or when you have applied a particular product for some time and you eat your hair or you just touch your hair, you see the product on your hands. Like, so that is what product build up is. The second characteristic of low porosity air is that your hair doesn't take in color easily. When you want to dye your hair, you find out that after dyeing your hair, the color doesn't really pop, and that's because your hair cuticles are tightly packed and they don't easily take in the dye. Also, it takes very long for low porosity air to dry. It also takes long for low porosity air to get saturated with water. You also find out that thick products like shea butter and other really thick creams and butters make your hair feel greasy. Even if you use just a little and a few minutes later you touch your hair, you find out that your hair is really greasy, which means your hair is not absorbing that cream properly. The most prominent characteristics of high porosity hair is that this hair cannot retain moisture for too long. You find out that you moisturize your hair now, within a twinkle of an eye everything is gone. You touch your hair and you find out that your hair is already freezing, which leads me to the next characteristic of high porosity hair: freezes. There is a tendency for high porosity hair to freeze easily because it cannot retain moisture, and no moisture helps to reduce freezes. I also want you to know that no porosity is better than the other. Each porosity has its own disadvantage and advantages. The fourth point to note about hair porosity is how to identify your hair porosity. There are 4 common methods of identifying your hair porosity, namely saturation time, drying time, float test, and the feel test. Saturation time simply means how long it takes for your hair to get saturated, maybe when you are applying, when you are under the shower, or when you want to pour water on your hair. You can try to see how many seconds it takes for your hair to get fully saturated. If you find out that it takes less than 30 seconds for your hair to get saturated, then that you are likely to have high porosity hair. And if it takes more than 30 seconds, sometimes more than 1 minute, for your hair to get saturated by water, then you can say you are a low porosity natural. Secondly, we talk about drying time. Drying time simply means how long it takes for your hair to get dry after washing, or how long it takes for your moisture to leave your hair, maybe after moisturizing your hair. Like how many days or how many hours you need to wait before you find out that okay, I need to moisturize my hair again. For example, if you wash your hair in the evening and you wake up tomorrow morning and you find out that okay, your hair is already totally dry, you are likely to have high porosity hair. But if you wake up and the next morning and you find out that okay, your hair is still moist, it's not totally dry, it's still wet, then you are likely to be a low porosity natural. The next method of finding out your hair porosity is the float test, and this is the most common one, and it is quite reliable, more reliable than the other tests. For best results, you should do the float test immediately after washing your hair, for you to wash off any product that is going to alter the result of this test. After washing your hair, take a few strands of your hair, and I will advise you to take strands from different parts of your hair. You can take a strand from the front, from here, from the back, from different parts of your hair. If you are taking 4 strands from your hair, know that you are going to need 4 glasses of water. Then you are going to label these glasses of water. You can label it front strand, back strand, center right, center left, depending on where you cut off a strand from. You have to label these glasses. The next thing for you to do is to place the strand into the glass of water. The strand from the front, place it into the glass of water labeled front strand. After placing these strands in the glasses of water, you should wait for minimum of 2 hours, sometimes 1 hour. It depends. You can, for example, when I did mine, I left the glasses of water there for like a whole day, just to be sure that okay, I'm getting the right results. So you place the strands in these glasses of water and wait for some time. Then you go back to check the strands after however long you decide to use. When you go back to check the glasses of water, if you find out that the strand is floating on top of the water, you are likely to have low porosity hair. If you find out that the strand is partly submerged in the water, then you have normal porosity hair. And if the strand is at the bottom, if the strand should sink to the bottom of the glass, then you have high porosity hair. The reason why I'm asking you to take strands from different parts of your hair is because it is possible for you to have more than one hair porosity. For example, me now, my front hair is more porous than my back hair. I don't have any high porosity hair on my head. It's mostly just low porosity and normal porosity, but 70% is low porosity. The last method of identifying your hair porosity, this method is really technical and it is not so reliable. So let me just explain this test. You take out a strand of your hair. You don't need to cut it in this case. Feel your strands. If it is smooth, you have low porosity hair. If it feels sharp or blade like a blade, then you have, that is high porosity hair. And if it is just normal, not too sharp and not too smooth, then that is medium porosity hair. Now in this case, well, if I use this test, sometimes it tell me high porosity, sometimes low porosity, but I've done other tests and I can say I am a low porosity natural. The last but not the least point to note about hair porosity is how to care for your hair. I'll start with low porosity hair. First of all, you should try to use protein-free conditioners. When shopping for products, when shopping for deep conditioners or any conditioner you are going to use, try to check that the product you are buying does not contain protein. Although once in a while, like for example, I use protein treatment once in a month. Once in a while, you need to also use protein treatment for low porosity hair, but not every time, because it's not easy to absorb protein into low porosity hair. So that's why we need to reduce protein usage for your hair. Secondly, when you want to condition your hair, make sure your hair is already wet, or if you cannot do that, you can dilute your conditioner. What I usually do, even though I'm applying my conditioner to wet hair, I also dilute my conditioner. So this helps to reduce the mass of the conditioner. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it helps the hair to absorb the conditioner well. It reduces the size. You know, your cuticles are really small, so when you dilute your conditioner or make your hair wet before adding conditioner, it helps your hair to absorb the conditioner faster and better. Also, when shopping for products, you should try to reduce buying products that contain oils. Buy products that contain glycerin and honey, because it's easier for low porosity hair to absorb glycerin and honey. The most important point to note when caring for low porosity hair is doing things that will increase the way your hair absorbs products. Last but not the least, you should also learn to heat up your hair when conditioning. You can either heat up the treatment you want to use for your hair, or you can heat up your hair after applying the treatment. For example, what I usually do is that after applying my deep conditioner, I use my steam cap just to lift my cuticles and help my hair to absorb the products more than normal when I don't use the steam cap. So moving on to high porosity hair. For high porosity hair, you should try to shop for products that contain oils and butters. This helps to close your cuticles. And remember that the aim for when taking care of high porosity hair is to reduce your porosity, to reduce the spacing between your hair cuticles. So when you shop for products that contain oils and butters, it helps to reduce your hair porosity and helps your hair to seal in whatever moisture or product you are going to be applying to your hair. You should also learn to avoid hot water or heat. Whenever you are conditioning your hair, you don't need a steam cap. If you have high porosity hair, you don't need to heat up your product before applying it to your hair. And also, whenever you want to straighten your hair or apply heat to your hair, maybe you want to do styles that require heat, you should use heat protectants. The last but not the least, whenever you want to moisturize your hair, use butters, heavy butters. Remember, there is this LOC method: liquid, oil and cream or butter. Since I'm a low porosity natural, I don't usually use that cream. I just use liquid and oil, and if I will even use the cream, maybe just a little. But if you are a high porosity natural, use shea butter. Is very good for you whenever you want to moisturize your hair. Just after using your leave-in conditioner or the liquid, applying the oil, use shea butter to seal in the moisture. Shea butter really helps to seal in moisture into your hair, and it will take you for a really long time, to last a long time before you need to moisturize your hair again. So that is that about hair porosity. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Next week I'll either talk about how to transition from relaxed hair to natural hair, or I'll talk about hair density. Thank you for watching today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this video. So don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already done that. And also remember that I love you guys and I'm very much interested in you having a healthy natural hair care journey. Peace out.